Welcome to A Little Bit Alexis podcast, where I am your host, Alexis Chasson. In today's episode, it's going to be a quiet space, a slow breath, a moment of stillness to sit with grief, not to fix it, but to honor it. If you're listening today because you're hurting, because you're missing someone, because your heart is heavy, I want to thank you for being here. This is a reading session for the soul with gentle words for grieving hearts. Take a moment to get comfortable. Let's begin. No one ever told me that grief felt so like fear. There is a sort of invisible blanket between the world and me. It's the line that always stops me. The idea that grief changes the entire texture of the world. Grief isn't a problem to be solved. It's a weight that we carry, and every weight shapes us. Grief often shows up in tight shoulders, sleepless nights, or in the silence of the morning. It lives in the body as much as it lives in the heart. Grief asks us to move slower, to listen deeper. So before we begin, let's take a slow breath in and exhale it out. Let's be here just as we are. Time doesn't heal in the straight lines. It loops. It surprises. One day you're fine. The next, you can't get out of bed. That's the weakness. That's grief. You're not going backwards. You're growing around the loss. Think of it like a tree growing around a storm-damaged limb. Sometimes there are no words, so we turn to others who have tried, who've stumbled toward the truth. That's why we read. That's why we gather like this. Grief is more than just sadness. It's silence. It's rage. It's forgetting how to laugh. It's being totally fine one moment and then falling apart in the middle of a grocery store. And it's not just about death. We grieve lost relationships, health, our childhoods, plans, versions of ourselves, and we don't talk about it enough. Memory is a form of healing. Remembering is how we continue to love after loss. Grief can affect your body so deeply. It tightens in your chest, fatigue, changes in appetite, or restless sleep. Remember, your body is carrying your heart's pain. When emotions arise, give yourself permission to feel them fully. There's healing in release. Let's take a moment to sit with the waves. Imagine yourself by a calm ocean, watching the waves roll in and out. Each wave represents a feeling, a sadness, an anger, love, longing. You don't have to hold onto the wave or push it away. Just watch it come and watch it go. What wave are you riding right now? Allow it space, then gently let it pass. Each grief journey is deeply personal and unique. No two are the same. Sometimes grief surprises us, showing up in unexpected ways, through dreams, sudden emotions, or memories triggered by that smallest thing. It's okay if your grief looks different from others. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. Close your eyes. Recall a memory with your loved ones, perhaps a smile, a shared moment, or something they said. Let yourself feel the emotions that come up. Joy, sadness, warmth, longing. Breathe into those feelings. You can hold both grief and gratitude at the same time. They live side by side. And I want you to know, grief, it's not just about death. We can grieve the lost relationships, health, our childhoods, plans, versions of ourselves, and we don't talk about it enough. The grief of a body that no longer feels like yours, a childhood you never got to have, the dreams that didn't come true, the version of yourself that never made it to the surface. Maybe your body has changed in ways you didn't choose. Or maybe you're dealing with chronic illness, pain, fatigue, or mental health struggles that made daily life feel different. There is grief in this. The grief of what you used to be able to do, the energy you once had, the version of yourself you didn't appreciate until it was gone. It's okay to mourn that. It doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you're human. Some of us are grieving a childhood we never had, a home that wasn't safe. Parents didn't protect us. Love that should have been unconditional, but wasn't. This grief is layered. It's mourning the innocence you had to give up too early. You may feel like you've lost something you never got to fully hold. And that grief is complicated. Sometimes it's invisible. But hear this. You were always worthy of love, safety, and tenderness. The fact you didn't receive it, it isn't your fault. Reflection. If you could speak to your younger self, what would you say? What happens when the life you planned for doesn't happen? Maybe you thought you'd be married by now or have a career that didn't quite come together, or a child, or a home, or just a different life than this one. That loss is real. It's the grief of unfilled dreams, the grief of timeless missed. You might feel silly for mourning a what if, but let me remind you, those what ifs were once your hopes, and it's okay to mourn them. We often forget to grieve the people we used to be or hope to become. Maybe you lost your spark. Maybe life took a turn and you become a survivor instead of a dreamer. That's grief in letting go of who you thought you'd be. You might ask, what would I be if I hadn't gone through that breakup, that trauma, that illness, or that loss? There's no shame in that question. What version of yourself are you grieving? What dreams did the version carry? Grief is a full body experience. Your brain is rewiring itself. Your nervous system is in alert. Your sleep, your appetite, your memory, they all shift. You might feel foggy, fatigued, distracted. You might cry at the drop of a hat, or not at all. You're not broken, you're grieving. That fatigue, it's your brain processing pain. That forgetfulness, it's your heart protecting itself. You don't need to bounce back. You need to tend to yourself like you would tend to a wounded child. Grief carves us, but it also carves a room. A room for new kinds of compassion, room for deeper gratitude, room for connection, softness, silence. You may never be the same, but you can become something just as a whole, and maybe even more true. Some grief becomes complicated, not because we're doing it wrong, but because the loss is complex. Maybe you lost someone who hurt you, and now you're grieving the pain and the possibilities of healing that never came. Maybe the grief is layered. A parent who was never truly there, a child you never got to meet, a goodbye that didn't feel fair. This grief doesn't fit into tidy boxes, but it's still real, still sacred, still worthy of being felt. Deep grief reshapes us. It changes the way we speak, trust, dream. It alters how we move through the world. Maybe you're no longer the person who laughs easily. Maybe you've grown quieter, more aware of time and loss, and that's okay. Grief is not about returning to who you were. It's about discovering who you've become. It doesn't mean the old version of you is gone forever. It means you're evolving, expanding, deepening. Here's what living with grief might look like. Saying their name out loud when no one else does. Leaving a seat open at the table. Lighting a candle every year on their birthday. Crying without explanation, or laughing and not feeling guilty. You carry grief because you carry love. Let it work beside you. Let it remind you how deeply you can feel. Grief reveals what matters most to us. It teaches us what's truly sacred. People, time, love, peace. And if you're listening to this right now, still carrying something heavy, still wondering when the ache will soften, still learning how to live in a world that feels different now, I want you to know this. Grief does not mean your story is over. It means something mattered deeply. You were not broken, you were becoming. And even in this pain, there is still beauty here, still laughter waiting, still purpose rising beneath the sorrow. You can build a life that honors what you've lost and make room for what still comes. Take your time, be soft with yourself, and when you're ready, keep living, keep loving, and keep going. Because even through the grief, you are still here, and that's no small miracle.